Hello, and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and we're very glad that you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We've invited back to be with us David Wolfe, who is the author of The Stone Food Diet Success System, and another book soon to come out on beauty, on eating and beauty, raw food and beauty. David is at this point nationally known for his work with raw food, promoting it, teaching about it. He goes around the country offering seminars, classes, and workshops, letting people know about the richness of our natural world and how important it is for us in terms of our health, longevity, and well-being. So it's really great to have David on the show again to talk about and share with us some of the wonders of Mother Nature. Hey, David.
How you doing? Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. You've been, since I've seen you last, doing some really amazing research in this field and looking at the underbelly, if you will, of live food. What is it that you want to share with us that's been so wondrous in your discoveries?
The raw food nutrition aspect of my life has just absolutely revolutionized the way I think, the way I feel, behave, act. It's just completely remade me anew. Food is such a major thing. It's something we participate in every day. And what we find is that if we make excellent choices about our foods, not just okay choices or good choices, but really something beyond that, excellent choices, that we begin to bring excellence into other areas of our lives. This year I've done about 100 seminars. It's been an incredible year for me. And of all the seminars and all the talks I've given and all the information that's come at me, and I've come across some amazing stuff, the most amazing saying I came across all year is this, and it's, the way you do anything is the way that you do everything. And I tell you, when I heard that, it was like, it just resonated with my soul. And that's the essence of raw food nutrition. It's that if we make excellent choices with our food, it begins to affect all facets of our life. I'm just totally inspired now to bring excellence into every moment. And it's a nonstop adventure for me.
Sure.
It's 7 days a week, 25 hours a day, every moment something new. And I'm just trying to distill out the real important foods for people. If they're going to take it all the way, great, and if they're not, that's beautiful too. And just provide a service so that people know the key foods which can provide them the most results. What are the superfoods? What are the most beneficial foods to bring in?
Well, if I could say, you have a perspective that I think predates, no doubt, your involvement even with raw food and food in general, which is that whatever you do is a metaphor for everything else that you do, which that wonderful motto that you shared with us is really saying.
Absolutely.
How you walk down the street and the way you relate to people, in a given moment at the bank, say, is the way that you will tend to relate to people and be successful and show yourself in the world.
Right. That's exactly right. There came a point for me in this journey of doing raw food nutrition where I just decided I'm just going to commit myself to go all the way with everything. Just commit myself to excellence, just to do it. And what that has done for me, it's just revolutionary. And it all began just by taking one step, doing one thing. And that one thing for me was when I started adding vegetable juices to my diet. That one thing.
Wow. That was that pivotal step.
And it seems so simple, and it's just seems so everyday that people wouldn't generally associate with that being a life-changing experience. Right. However, these little things, like adding a green vegetable juice into your diet every single day, begins to add up over time. And this one discipline all of a sudden makes it easier to adopt other disciplines. And then it takes on its own momentum.
Sure. Now, so what are those key foods that you have found in all of these years of research?
Well, probably the most beneficial thing for people to begin with is vegetable juice, fresh vegetable juice. I can't even tell you, Mitchell, over all the years I've been doing this work, how many people have come to me telling me their story about how they healed themselves of cancer or reversed life-threatening illnesses like diabetes, osteoporosis, things of that nature, by beginning to do vegetable juices, and then from there began opening up the door and seeing all the different healing modalities from another perspective. And that has been so inspirational for me. It's really disciplined me to make it consistent. So I still do that every day. Is I have my vegetable juice, fresh vegetable juice.
Like what kind of juice?
Day. I really like to base all my juices on celery.
Really?
Yeah, and we hear a lot about carrot juice, and that's become quite popularized. Even wheatgrass juice has become popularized. But really, what we're going after here is the key distinctions, is green. And the way you start into this, you don't want to start in and do like straight parsley juice, which is like, you
I know.
come right out the other end. It's like liquid plumber coming through sometimes.
Right.
You start out with something that's soft, that has organic sodium.
Yes.
And organic sodium
Like
is
celery,
a very
of course.
critical mineral, exactly,
Sure.
which is found in celery. And organic sodium, a deficiency in that one mineral, has a cascading effect that affects almost every organ in the body. Now this brings up this whole thing about celery as a superfood. It's such a common food, we just don't think about how important it is, but literally because it has a natural salt in it, high amount of electrolytes, especially in a juiced form, it rebuilds you. And it rebuilds, in particular, your stomach, which is the first place where everything goes.
Sure.
And once you rebuild the stomach, then we can start working on other organs around the body.
So celery in itself can have this rebuilding function?
Yeah, just by itself, and then you can begin to add other things to it. Celery and apple is really good for beginners because it's got a little bit sweet.
Sure.
Fresh celery, apple, parsley juice is one of my favorite drinks. Fresh celery, apple, cucumber.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, another food that has come out, really something that my research has led me into, very much maligned food out there. I mean, it's something that people wouldn't even consider putting in their body because there's been a lot of propaganda about it and a lot of inappropriate propaganda, really. And that is coconut oil, or otherwise known as sometimes called coconut butter. Now, coconut oil in its raw natural state, and it's pressed from mature coconuts. So if you go to the health food store, sometimes you see these coconuts, you crack them open, they have a hard inside.
Sure.
If that hard white stuff is pressed in a press, it will release an oil, and that's what coconut oil is. Now, coconut oil has a whole spectrum of rejuvenative properties. It's been used in India for thousands of years. The Polynesians have used it for thousands of years. They have no heart disease. They have beautiful skin. I mean, a topical application, putting it on your face, it's just the most incredible thing.
But even I believe that the beauty of the skin is from even taking it internally.
Absolutely.
Let alone externally.
And to many people's surprise, I take 3 or 4 tablespoons of coconut oil in my body every day. And you can blend it in with a smoothie. You can take it straight.
Is it tasty?
Oh, it's very aromatic. Now, if you go to a health food store, sometimes you find a big tub of coconut butter, and if you open it up, there's no smell. It's been deodorized. It's lost the prana or the life force.
Right.
So those generally going to have to go outside sometimes at the health food store to research and find where the best stuff is. And that's part of the work that I do. I try to find these things, and that's what I try to get to people, is these incredible quality products. Now, coconut oil, in addition to all this stuff, has a very amazing building property of the immune system because it contains lauric acid, which is a type of fatty acid. A lot of saturated fats that you'd find in animal products, which are really hard on the system, difficult to metabolize. What you find in coconut oil is that the saturated fats are very short chain or medium chain. Lauric acid is a medium chain fatty acid. Strong antiviral properties. Caprylic acid is very closely related to lauric acid, also found in coconut butter. Very strong antifungal properties. And we find today that people are dealing with a lot of fungal disorders.
Yeast,
with
fungus,
candida. Exactly. And this is noticeable. You see it under people's nails, or they have thrush or yeast infections. And coconut oil is a natural remedy for these things. So it restores the balance to the body.
Wow, that is fabulous. Now, where can one get this in an unadulterated form? This is a big thing, even when it comes to celery. And I mean, what we're dealing with when people go to the markets, even the organic food stores at this point, it's just, in the past several years, it's just not as pure as it was.
Right. So you have to go a little bit further. What I've found is you have to make a commitment. You have to make a commitment and say, look, for our family, we're going to go for organic food or better. Organic food has more minerals.
Yeah.
Aside from all the other propaganda and stuff you hear, it's just got more minerals in it. And minerals are really
for
everything.
For that alone,
if for no other reason, that's why it's superior. That's my company distributes one variety of coconut oil that I literally had to fly down to Fiji, driving on dirt roads, back country, an hour from the nearest village. I mean, so far out there on some island. I mean, just out there. And we finally got to this guy's place, and he's got the full spectrum technology equipment for pressing this oil. And it is cold pressed. There's just no system like it. And when I got in there, I had my glass and I said, "I want your finest." And he tapped a barrel that he had just pressed, and he poured it out, and it came out as a liquid. And I literally drank it. And from then on, I mean, it was like I was sold, and we didn't know how we were going to ship it to America, but now we import it into the United States, and we ship it all over the world.
Do you really?
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
For me...
So it's totally pure.
It's totally pure. So pure. I have a friend of mine who tests all the different foods that are out there, and he called me up and ordered 200 bottles, and he's a doctor because he wants to get that type of stuff to his patients. He's a very, very amazing alternative medical doctor.
Yes.
And he tests everything, so he knows. He knows if there's something wrong with a food, if there's an inorganic ingredient, or if there's something that's been grown close to a road. Even he can detect all this stuff. And he ordered 200 bottles of that material. And what we find is it's so aromatic that literally, as in terms of massage or even as an erotic oil, like for sex, is just outrageous.
Just what I was about to bring up. Is it, huh? It really is.
Yeah, it is. It's,
Does it have actual components that feed the sexual hormones?
It's very good for building male sexual fluids. There's nothing like it.
Really?
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
Chemically,
yeah.
Wow.
In the Ayurvedic understanding of how our body processes our food and converts it into our body tissues, our sexual fluids are the most difficult to build. Normally, our body has to process for, I think in the Ayurvedic understanding, it's like 35 days it takes for your food to go through all the different levels of refinement and distillation to get to become the sexual fluids that literally drive, the sex organs.
Exactly. And that can then fertilize an egg and create life. If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense that it would take, of all substances in the body, it would take that substance the longest time to refine.
But what we find, though, is that coconut and
brings
coconut butter in 3 days or less. And so this is why coconut has been such an amazing food for most of the tropical population of the world. I mean, they live on it as almost exclusively in some countries. Now, you go to Malaysia, or you go down to Fiji,
Polynesia.
the Fijian Islands, and Polynesia, and it's the main source of fat. And dietary fat is very, very critical. And that brings up another food which is of amazing
But how about
substance.
protein in those contexts?
In those contexts, you're going to find protein in the whole coconut. In the oil, you only find fat. It's pretty much just the fat has been removed and the protein is left behind.
I see.
Now, in terms of protein...
Is the protein in the milk?
The protein is actually in the fiber of the hard coconut. So when you get a coconut in the store and it's got this hard white stuff on the inside, it's very good for you, except you got to chew through it. It takes a while to extract all that stuff, and you have to have pretty strong digestion to get through all that stuff. Right. But there's good quality protein there. Another food that fits into this paradigm that we're trying to figure out, what are the
strongest foods?
Yeah, the strongest foods. The highest protein food on the earth with assimilable protein is hemp seeds. And hemp seeds have edestin, which is a complete protein. It contains the sulfur-bearing amino acids, and that may not mean anything to most people. But the sulfur-bearing amino acids create elasticity of the tissues if we've become arthritic.
Sort of like the MSM family?
Right, exactly. In fact, when you take in MSM, which I'm a big fan of, methylsulfonylmethane, when you take that in, your body is capable then of creating the sulfur-bearing amino acids from that, with the exception of one, which is methionine, which is found abundantly in hemp seeds.
Oh.
And hemp seeds contain...
So it's fully available through hemp seed.
Exactly.
All of the proper amino acids.
All the proper amino acids. Wow. All the amino acids, and then some. As we age, it's more important that we have a high amount of amino acids in our body, in our tissues.
Yeah.
And that we'll get into that as we move through this talk here, that some of the other superfoods are these foods that contain a high amount of amino acids, so that as we have gone around the sun a few times, this is something I'm bringing into the vernacular.
Yes, right.
A new term, instead of how old are you, that's a loaded phrase. How many times have you been around the sun?
Yes.
As we go around the sun a few more times, we find we need more amino acids to stay youthful and to keep that longevity. But going back to hemp seed, what's fascinating here is that hemp seeds are probably one of the most mineral-dense foods that exists on the earth. I mean, it contains magnesium, manganese, silver, titanium, zirconium, copper, zinc. I mean, that's just maybe 30%. There is a whole list. Tungsten is a mineral that's in hemp seeds, and all these unique trace minerals. And what these unique trace minerals do is they potentiate our whole system. They add more life to our enzymatic systems. All the enzymes in our body run on unique minerals. And if we don't take those minerals in, let's say we live our whole life without those minerals.
Interesting, yes.
What happens is those enzymes remain dormant. So we never really activate everything and get everything functioning properly.
And would you explain a bit about enzymes? Most people think about enzymatic reactions as having to do specifically with digestion.
Yeah.
But of course, it's a whole lot more than that.
Right.
So,
well, the first thing about enzymes, and the most unique difference between, say, raw and cooked food, is that raw food has enzymes in it and cooked food does not.
Surely.
The goal really is to try to get as much enzymes into our body as we can. Dr. Howell's research revealed, 60 years of research revealed that what he believed to be the number one cause of aging was an enzyme depletion. Just the body had to work like crazy to create enough enzymes to digest food and run the body. And so we try to take that in our diet as much as possible. Each cell in our body contains 4,000 different types of enzymes. And each one of those enzymes, 4,000.
Oh
we're just beginning to understand the complexity of the cell.
Yes.
You can understand how those interact with each other in multiplicity of complex reactions.
You should really say 4,000 identified enzymatic functions.
Exactly, because there could be more.
Oh, yeah.
And there probably is.
Because there was more before we found the 4,000.
Yeah, exactly. We have this whole thing, we think we've got it all figured out.
Yeah, it's mapped out, folks, but it's not.
What is interesting about nutrition, though, is we are beginning to make inroads, and we are beginning to find out what are the superfoods, how come they work, why is it that this certain type of illness can be healed by these certain types of foods. And that is really where my research has brought me, and it's fascinating.
This is really fascinating, David, because it opens up this whole idea. From where I come from, if mineralization is what also contributes largely to electrical conductivity in our nervous system, and then we start to talk about something called spiritual food, spiritual nutrition, to coin the phrase that Cousins used.
Yep.
We're starting to talk about the use of food as a means of activating our system and turning on our neural system, if you will, in a way that just not having those minerals just won't do.
That's absolutely correct.
And we start to create superfoods, create superhumans, if you will.
Yeah, in a certain way. That's probably what keeps me
Potentially,
going.
let's say.
Yeah, in terms of eating raw food diet, there's a certain amount of willpower just to get the disciplines in place. And that's just something that will come about with time. You just get one discipline in place, you work with it, you add some of these things in, coconut oil, hemp seed, some things I was going to get to, bee pollen, very amazing as a superfood, a very amazing, super high source of minerals and trace minerals, incredible source of protein, probably the most high-grade protein on the planet other than hemp seeds. Incredible brain food. Rebuilds brain tissue better than anything. So people who have been in car accidents, who have had brain injuries, strokes, people who have had chemical imbalance. There's really, and that is Gabriel Cousins' research has demonstrated this. So this is another food that we can bring in. Now, if we start taking in these superfoods, what happens is our body gets everything that it really needs to run. It's possible that if we just say, whatever, our whole life, we could have been built out of the wrong stuff. And from a spiritual perspective, maybe that our spirit doesn't come fully alive into our body because things aren't proper. I mean, there's pain, there's things, there's scar tissue, so the spirit doesn't come fully alive. Blockages, right. Crystallization of energy, emotional energy in our tissues. And as we begin to cleanse that stuff out and the emotional issues will come up, well, our spirit comes more fully alive. And then for me, I mean, it's been about actualizing my mission on earth. And that's for everybody. Perfect health is living your mission. It's not about food, it's not about, it's not even about meditation, it's about living your mission. And when you live your mission, you have infinite energy, and everybody knows this. When you're doing what you love to do, you could work 5, 10, 20 hours in a row, and you don't even think about it. It just, everything goes away.
Exactly. It's interesting. You remind me of something I heard many years ago from, of all people, Werner Erhard, who's actually very brilliant, who said that health is essentially measured by one's participation in life.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Is that beautiful?
That is beautiful. Yeah.
And people think it's, this, that, and pH and all. Well, yeah, it relates to that, but how does it manifest actually in the world by your participation in life, in the world? That's the real measure of your life.
That really is. I also love Werner Erhard's quote. He said, "Life happens during a conversation we have with ourselves inside our own mind." And what I love about the raw food approach is it does change the general conversation that's going on upstairs.
Oh, truly.
It changes our focus and causes us to shift and become more creative in certain ways, and to just bring in new ideas, new thoughts, wisdom from the universe we didn't know we had access to.
Exactly. You think it's just a small thing, but in fact it's really a key to opening up the universe.
That is it.
Inside you.
Right? The yogis had a saying, they said that if you master sex, breathing, and food, you've mastered your life. So we're just talking about one of those. You get this thing down and it works.
Then we'll talk about breathing after this.
Yeah, exactly.
And then sex.
Yeah, right. Stay tuned.
Exactly. Now, it's interesting. I want to bring up this idea of unlocking potential, because then we'll get back to the list of superfoods. It seems to me, and please share with us what you know about this, it's as though each of those minerals that you named, these perhaps more arcane minerals that we don't see in our normal diet, each one has a different, this is going to, like a spiritual flavor or aspect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in particular,
zirconium. I mean, where have you, built up your zirconium?
Zirconium. Where are you getting that from? Or germanium.
Or germanium, right, exactly.
Right.
Could you speak to that?
Yeah, that's a huge area of research I've done. One of the more interesting series of minerals that is out there is the platinum group elements.
Yes.
And those elements...
Platinum and gallium is another fascinating group.
Absolutely.
Iridium, rhodium.
Right. Osmium, ruthenium, gold, silver, platinum, and palladium.
Yes.
Those minerals in that group
gallium.
We're just beginning to understand what those minerals do, and they can exist in very unique states. And you may be familiar with David Hudson's work.
Very well.
And some of his people now have taught. They have moved to another place and are producing some monoatomic elements. And these are unique states of the platinum group minerals that our body apparently attaches onto each end of the DNA. And these minerals in the monoatomic state are superconductors at room temperature or at body temperature. So this is how, it's been known by science that somehow every cell in our body communicates with every other cell in our body instantaneously.
And I actually got my first education from Dave Hudson himself.
Wow.
In a meeting in Arizona where he laid this whole thing out for me, and I went, that's incredible. Basically, the discussion was manna from heaven. Because our bodies, as you say, become superconductors. And what are we conducting but light?
Right.
Light itself. The highest level of information, if you will, itself.
And this is why the study of minerals is so critical. Because, see, the more mineralized we are, also, at one level, we do become more spiritual in a certain way, but we also become more grounded, too. See, you've met people, I'm sure I have met people, I mean, they're just going off the deep end. You're just going, they're not grounded. I don't know. I can't really listen to that message. It's not grounded. And we have that word grounded because it really means something.
Yes.
Ground, earth,
minerals,
dirt, Minerals.
Exactly.
Right. And so the more mineralized we are, we're very grounded, but at the same time we have
Bone,
access.
skeleton.
And just talking about building bone and talking about different superfoods, one of the more fascinating supplements that you could get out there, it's not really a supplement, it's kind of a food, is horsetail, which is not a horse's tail. It's an herb. It's an herb.
Right.
And that contains,
But called horsetail.
It's called horsetail. But that contains an
Don't
enormous
go
amount
attacking your neighbor's horse now.
That contains a tremendous amount of silica, which is a beauty mineral.
Yeah,
so the sulfur, like MSM, and silica coming from herbs like nettles, horsetail, mature grasses, not found in young grass, but mature grass. That particular mineral has an amazing propensity to cleanse our skin, to keep us elastic, to heal soft tissue damage, to grow beautiful hair, to have strong nails, and just goes on and on and on. These are just, at any health food store, it's like you walk in and you have to know the keys to the puzzle, and that's what we're trying to figure out.
One has to be careful about what forms one takes these in.
Right.
I mean, in order for getting the greatest effect.
That's correct.
So what do you have to say about that?
Aqueous extract of horsetail of the herb. The only company that I feel really does it right, and if I can mention that,
please.
I will. Flora's Vegetal Silica. Company's called Flora. They have a great product out.
Oh, Flora, yes.
They've got
They've
great...
made the Essiac and all of
Yeah,
that.
right,
Sure.
right.
Are they German, in fact? Are they German?
I'm not sure where their home base is in America now. I know that. And I have some friends some people who are into raw foods who work in that company.
I see.
So I have a bunch of contacts in different things. So I always find out, tell me where's the best stuff.
But I guess part of my question, David, could it be taken homeopathically? Could it be taken in other possible forms?
Probably. Yeah, homeopathic remedies do work. Homeopathic approaches are really quite amazing. I think garlic works a lot of times homeopathically. Like if someone has a fungal infection, if you rub garlic, it's got a real kind of thick, oily substance. And if you get like a fungal infection, for example, of your toes or something like that, you'll find that it produces this same kind of oil. So it's a homeopathic remedy.
Right,
and garlic is another incredible
Garlic
food.
is definitely a superfood. Well, this has been a super interview. I mean, I really appreciate your coming and sharing so much knowledge that's very rich.
Thank you.
It's very rich. You're really
Thanks for
doing
the
a beautiful
opportunity.
service. Absolutely. Thanks so much for coming, and please come back.
I will.
Okay,
Thanks,
will
Mitchell.
you? Absolutely. Wow. Well, that's for everybody. Whether you're a raw foodist, you're not a raw foodist, it doesn't matter. If you can incorporate some of what David is sharing here in your diet, in your life, and use it also as a metaphor for creating change, you'll be the better for it. Thanks so much for joining us. This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.